everyone. Today's video I'll be doing a double movie review on two slasher movies that don't get enough attention or are not talked about as much as they should be. And those movies are Alice Sweet Alice and Tourist Trap. Instead of showing myself on camera, this will be a recording instead. And yes, before I start this video, yes, off the record, the first time I learned about these two movies were from James Rolfe's Cinemassacre's Monster Madness video series. This will be a spoiler video. If you've not seen any of these movies, stop the video right here. To start this video off, I'll talk about Alice Sweet Alice from 1976. Alice Sweet Alice was originally going to be titled Communion, but was changed because a book was released around the same time as this movie, but has no connection to the book. It was directed by Alfred Sole, who really did not direct many movies. He started as a film director. He would later become a production designer for television later on in his career. Watching this movie makes me think, how come this guy did not direct many more movies? And sadly, he's no longer with us. He passed away in 2022 from committing suicide. Very sad. This movie stars a very young and unknown little Brooke Shields in this movie before she was famous. This was her first movie at the time. I'll admit, I don't know much about her career. I've not seen many of her movies. I remember she was on some random various episodes of That 70s Show. That's about it. She dies early in this movie being burned on fire before receiving communion, kind of like Marion Crane in Psycho. She's not the main character you would expect. It's weird how despite her character dying for marketing reasons, they put her name on the movie poster for home video releases. I'm guessing because she would later become a big star and that's why to get people's attention to watch this movie. Who the heck knows? It shows how even bad things and crazy things can happen in Catholic churches, even a murder. Throughout the movie, it keeps you guessing on your toes and making a list of suspects of who killed Karen. It's a surprise who the killer is when you think you know who it is. Once it's revealed, you're in shock like, oh wow, I was wrong. It's like how in Black Christmas when you thought Keir Dullea was the killer. Just like Black Christmas, we see the killer's point of view when they kill the victims. When I first saw this movie, my guess it could have been Karen's older sister Alice who killed Karen. After when Karen is strangled and burned to death, we see Alice coming out wearing her sister's communion veil. She's about to receive communion until a nun finds her sister's Karen's dead body burned. And this led me and made me believe that she was the killer. She is the main focus of this movie. Despite Alice was not the killer, she still wears the mask and the clothes the killer wears. The part when her younger sister Karen goes looking for Alice, wanting her doll bags in some random abandoned broken building. Karen is looking for Alice and Alice opens the door, spooks Karen, locks her in the room for a few seconds, then she tells her to go home. Alice is so mean and cruel to Karen. This part was very scary and creepy. The mask the killer wears reminds you of Lon Chaney's mask he wore in The Phantom of the Opera, disguising himself when he meets Christine. I would not be surprised, just like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with this movie being a low-budget horror movie, I would not be surprised that the producers probably found this mask at a store. I will say it's a very creepy mask, but I'm unaware about the mask's origins. This movie is a good family drama dynamics. After Karen was killed, we see how the family grieves over her loss. Besides being a horror slasher movie, it's also a good drama movie and a coming-of-age story, but a very dark coming-of-age story. Now that this is true, it's one of the few slasher movies with good drama in it. But then again, there was Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, and Black Christmas slashers with good drama in it too. It's also a murder mystery of whodunit. It's not a high body count like in a lot of other slasher movies you see. Her older sister Alice feels neglected by her parents, thinking that her sister Karen is the favorite and she gets more attention. Despite believing she may have been the killer, in a weird way, you feel bad for her and sympathize for being neglected by her parents and how her aunt is mean to her. We see how she's going through puberty throughout the movie and her body's going through changes. Like any teenager growing up, she goes through teenage hormone range. Alice feels frustrated with the lack of communication about how she feels and what she's going through as a pre-teenager. Her mother had no idea she had her first period. Alice is an interesting character. She comes from a broken home family of dysfunction. Her parents are divorced. It makes her feel sad they don't feel like a traditional family. Because her dad remarried in his absence, she does not see him that much. Paula Shepherd plays Alice does a good job in this movie. Too bad she didn't have much of an acting career. She did this movie and another movie called Liquid Sky, which did not do well. After that, she quit acting and lived a regular life. Believe it or not, despite playing a 12-year-old around the time when this movie was made, she was 19 years old. After Karen's death, the father comes to do his best to support and comfort his ex-wife and daughter. He also tries to figure out how can he help Alice. She's taken to a psychiatric place to get help, but sadly, not even the psychiatric place cannot help her. When she takes the lie detector test, we find out she was telling the truth, that she did not kill her aunt and did not kill her sister. Linda Miller, who plays the mother, Catherine, does a good job in this movie. Her reaction when she finds her daughter Karen is dead is very believable. You feel bad for losing her daughter, every parent's worst nightmare. Her sister is kind of a bitch. She does not get along with Alice. The scene with her and her ex-husband Dom are talking. They kiss each other despite being divorced. They still love each other, but it's not the same as it was before when they were young and married. Believe it or not, this woman was married to Jason Miller, who played Father Karras from The Exorcist, and she is the daughter of Jackie Gleason. The part when Alice Ann is stabbed in the leg and the foot by the stairs, it's very brutal and gruesome. It looked like something out of an Italian giallo horror movie. Alvarez said when he made this movie, he never even saw a giallo horror movie. After being stabbed in the leg, she's then shot and thinks Alice did it. It's a movie about themes of religion, guilt, sin, denial, and family being neglected to their daughter. Like The Exorcist, a little Catholicism on faith and religion. And now Alice's parents don't want to believe she killed Karen, that she's innocent, and they can't imagine their daughter as a killer. Despite this movie came out in the 1970s, it feels like the 1960s because this movie takes place in the 60s. In the background, someone has a photo of President John F. Kennedy, a little Easter egg right there for you. The landlord perverted fat guy played by Alfonso De Novo was a piece of shit. If Mr. Clean saw how he takes care of his apartment, how he's a slob and not a clean guy, Mr. Clean will feign to have a heart attack. This guy was not an actor. He worked in a gay bar as a bouncer. He did 2 other indie horror movies and died in 1978 shooting himself committing suicide. Believe it or not, Alfonso used to dress up and pretend he was a priest and hang around cemeteries to make extra money. He would get asked for blessings and he would get donations. When he tries to sexually assault Alice, it's sickening. His death was not a loss. The movie has a psycho vibe to it. The music score feels like Bernard Herrmann. The look and the style of the movie has that Dario Argento feel for it, but not colorful. Alfred said he took inspiration from Nicholas's Rogue Don't Look Now and some of Alfred Hitchcock camera tricks. Like I said earlier in this video, this is a spoiler video. If you have not seen the movie, stop the video right here. The killer was Father Tom's assistant, Mrs. Tredoni. Throughout the movie, we see how she has an obsession over her religion and Father Tom. She's very protective of Father Tom. She confesses to Father Tom her killings, believing that the people she killed deserved to die, thinking that they were sinners and deserved to be punished. She kills Alice's father. She believes it was a sin of Dom and Catherine to have premarital sex, later divorcing. She thinks Alice's mother is a whore. Alice does not find out her father was murdered. When Father Tom cooperates to help the police catch Mrs. Tredoni and bring her to justice, when she's about to receive communion, because she trusts Father Tom, she thinks that she won't get caught. She kills Father Tom in front of a church service ceremony. It ends pointing the camera at Alice holding Mrs. Tredoni's shopping bag with the knife where she might grow up one day to be a killer, continue Mrs. Tredoni's killing spree. Here's my friend Joe giving his thoughts on Alice Sweet Alice. Not only does he talk about the movie, but he also shows the location where Alice Sweet Alice was filmed in Paterson, New Jersey.
Alice Sweet Alice is a 1976 movie. It's horror, but it's a cool movie. It stars Brooke Shields, and I believe it was her first movie. I think I remember they said too. But yeah, she was, really young there, kid, and she, I think they said that was her first movie. She went on to The Blue Lagoon, that movie, years later, but Alice Sweet Alice was one of my favorite movies from the 70s. It also stars Linda Miller, which is Jackie Gleason's daughter. I don't know if whoever's seen Jackie Gleason from years ago to show, that's actually his daughter that was in that movie, Alice Sweet Alice. And it's in Paterson, the house where they did some of the scenes. That house, they actually seen it. And I seen the other sidewalk and stuff where they had some of the scenes. That was cool. Alice in Patterson. Linda Miller was coming out on the front of the house. I seen that house too. That's, like I said, that's where they did that. Some of that scenes and some of the other scenes. It was cool to see. It was in Patterson. And Linda Miller was actually with Jason Miller at one time in the past, in the 70s. He's the one who played the priest in The Exorcist. I found that a while after too. I didn't know it. Those are the pictures of the house that when I seen it, it was cool to see it. That's in Patterson. That's the pictures I took. That's like where they did some of the scenes where Linda Miller was coming out. And I walked some of the sidewalk too and stuff. It's private property, but I got some pictures and stuff, as long as you're only taking pictures, it's okay, but I was walking the sidewalk too and got some pictures. It was nice. But I recommend this movie to check it out. It's from 1976, Alice Sweet Alice. It's really a cool, B-movie, horror movie. It's cool. And the woman in the movie that was supposed to be the killer with the knife, the one that went in the back of the house through the fence, that's the fence that I see too, where I was walking the sidewalk. It was cool to see it. But like I said, I recommend this movie to check it out. It's from the 70s. I've seen it a lot of times, but it's really, really a cool movie.
This movie came out around the same time as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist, Halloween, and The Omen, but did not get the same respect or treatment it deserved. But in later years, it's gained a cult following. But it's a bummer that it's a forgotten horror movie. This is one horror slasher which deserves a lot more attention. Also, if you want to see a slasher movie you've never seen or have not heard of before, this is a must-watch for you. Now on to Tourist Trap. Last year when I did my video on House of Wax with my dad, I mentioned this movie briefly, how this movie is inspired from that god-awful 2005 House of Wax remake, but as a slasher movie meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But no comparison, this movie is way better than the 2005 House of Wax remake. Also, the 2005 House of Wax remake was more of a loose remake of Tourist Trap than the original House of Wax from 1933 and Vincent Price. It also has other elements to other horror movies, like for example, it has a little Halloween element to it. When the characters leave one by one, they don't come back, and our final girl Molly goes to the house next door to investigate to see where her friends are and is stalked by the killer, just like Michael Myers stalking Laurie Strode. Or like in the old Dark House or in other horror movies, when people are traveling, they are told by the villagers or townspeople not to go to that destination, bad things happen there, but of course, the main characters don't listen, they go there anyway. Next thing you know, chaos happens. All hell breaks loose. A lot of people have also compared this movie to the Twilight Zone episode After Hours. I saw this once a long time ago, and this is my second viewing for this video. It was a nice refresher, and I felt like I was watching this movie again for the first time. This movie is directed by David Schmoller. This is the first film he directed. He later went on to direct movies like The Seduction, Crawl Space, and the first Puppet Master movie. He based this movie on a short movie he directed as a college student called The Spider Will Kill You, but this was basically a longer version of that movie. Believe it or not, in the early stage of productions, David Schmoller originally wanted John Carpenter to direct this movie, but could not come to a financial agreement on salary with Carpenter, so David Schmoller decided to direct this movie instead. If John Carpenter directed this movie, he probably would have felt he was directing a different version of Halloween. It was produced and co-written by J. Larry Carroll. He pitched this idea to Charles Band, who later on would be the founder of Empire Studios, and a studio named after him. This music was composed by Pino Donaggio. During the making of this movie, film producer Irwin Yabs did not like the score to this movie. He was hoping to match the same level of score and sound like the original Halloween. Ironically, this movie had a little Carrie vibe, and also ironically, he composed Carrie a few years prior, Pino Donaggio. As I mentioned before, this movie has a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe. J. Larry Carroll edited the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also, Robert A. Burns, who was the art director on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he did the Leatherface mask and the fake skeleton bones. Tourist Trap is one of Stephen King's favorite movies. Just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have these 20-something-year-olds getting out looking to have fun, a little adventure, but end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. The main characters are nothing special, basic cliches, we know who lives and dies. This is one of Tanya Roberts' early movies before she was famous. Again, just like Brooke Shields, I don't know anything about her as an actress and why she's famous, but I do remember she was a recurring character on episodes of That 70s Show. Not that she does a bad job, I don't remember her character's name even after 2 viewings of this movie. One of the other male characters named Jerry, just like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was a character named Jerry too. Along the trip, this gang meets an old man named Slavs who used to run a house of wax museum. When he first meets the girls, they are skinny dipping at a lake, and it's an awkward first time meeting someone they don't know. Between the main characters, Slavs is the most interesting character out of all of them in this movie. His character's like Norman Bates. He seems nice and friendly, gets emotional lying to the gang about his wife dying of cancer, where in fact he killed his wife and his brother because they were having an affair. Just like Norman Bates, he keeps his brother's Davy Kill Spree legacy alive, pretending to be his brother, just like how Norman Bates pretended to be his mother to kill people. Slauson shows the gang his man in wax figures. He keeps his wife's memory alive as a wax figure, but little did they know. He said that his museum used to be an attraction until it went downhill when the government built a new highway. He's behind with the times. He lives in the past. He wears a cowboy hat like John Wayne style. Slauson has an unhealthy obsession with the past, wanting to keep the past alive and bring his dead wife back. He won't let go of the past. Having her as a mannequin is what keeps her memory alive. As we're watching this movie, doing some research on the movie, I read a little bit about Chuck Connors, the actor who played Slauson in this movie. Not to make this into an autobiography on Chuck Connors, he had an interesting life and a career. He was an actor, writer, he played baseball and basketball. He was in the Army during World War II. He was mostly known for the Western TV show The Rifleman. This guy was basically a jack of all trades. Apparently, he's in a Cowboy Hall of Fame museum in Oklahoma City. I never knew there was such a thing or a place like that existed. Before being cast as the character Slauson, the producers originally wanted either Jack Palance or Gig Young, but both of them turned this movie down. When Chuck Connors got this part, he said he was able to reinvent his career in his older years like Boris Karloff did. Not only is the killer scary in this movie, the wax figure mannequins in the background are creepy. You feel creeped out and uncomfortable thinking the mannequins are looking right at you. The killer's mask is very scary and creepy. It looks like Leatherface is an ugly plastic doll. Just like Leatherface, he can get under your skin. Jocelyn Jones, who plays Molly, the final girl who survives the movie. I don't know why, before she wore a hat, she looked like Little Bo Peep. At first, she seemed to be interested and fascinated with Slauson, but once she finds out he's the killer, Molly defends herself, does a good job in the movie towards the end. Towards the end, we see how she's going insane from trying to survive. She has a good screaming voice, but too bad she did not become a scream queen, this actress. When she tries to shoot Davy, it makes you think of the foreshadow fighting blank Slauson showed the gang earlier when they first met the guy. It's disturbing, creepy, and weird when Slauson kisses her with a mask on, because she reminds him of his deceased wife. Just when she thought she was saved by Jerry, a little twist right here, Jerry was already turned into a mannequin. She sees the connection how the mannequin looks like his wife, and it feels like real skin, knowing that something is not right here. The movie starts out with the gang getting a flat tire, and Woody tries to find a gas station looking for help. He does find a gas station, goes inside, and no one's inside there. Then Woody gets spooked out and is tracked by the mannequins. Random various objects are thrown at him. He's trapped in the room. Then a lead pipe kills him, and he's considered missing by his friends. This scene was weird, bizarre, and disturbing. The mannequins laughing reminded me of the hyenas from Lady and the Tramp. The mannequin scene, which makes it even creepier. I could be reading too deep into this. My guess is they're trying to send warning to the youngsters to get out while they can, or otherwise, they'll be turned to wax figures again. I'm overanalyzing this. When the character Eileen finds two wax figures, one of them is an old woman. It's like how in Psycho when they find Norman Bates' dead mother. The supernatural telekinetic powers is like Carrie. In the original script, there was no supernatural element. It was a last-minute decision by one of the producers. There's no explanation on the telekinetic powers, and that's what makes it very effective. The less we know, the better, which makes this movie stranger and creepier. It's hinted that Slauson has telekinetic powers, even though it's not explained. The part when the killer Davy kills one of the victims with his plastic wax putting on her face is very bone-chilling, very uncomfortable. It's also torture to watch. I found myself feeling painful to watch this scene. It's one of the most unique creative kills in a horror movie in my own opinion. This is probably one of the weirdest, disturbing, bizarre slasher movies I've ever seen. Lena Quigley plays one of the mannequins but is uncredited. She will later go on to be a big 80s iconic scream queen for low-budget horror movies. Believe it or not, this movie is rated PG despite there was brief nudity in the movie when the female characters go skinny dipping. It has some graphic violence. Around this time, PG-13 did not exist for another 5 years until 1984. If this came out today, it definitely get an R rating for sure. Director David Schumiller was surprised even to this day that this movie got a PG rating by the MPAA. This was another movie that did not become a classic like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And sad to say this, when this movie came out, it was forgotten. Hope with some home video releases or online streaming services, this movie could possibly get more attention, also at conventions. It's not great, but it's worth checking out. Again, want to check out a slasher movie you've never seen or heard of before? This one is worth a watch. Watch it on your own terms. That wraps up today's video. See you next time.